Hi everybody, my name is Kelly. How are you today? I thought I would talk to you today about resiliency. And a lot of us have heard about resiliency, but we might not be positive what that's all about. So resiliency from a human point of view is being able to recover from things that happen that aren't perfect. So we can recover and feel better and look at them in a way that it doesn't bring us down and it doesn't affect us, or at least it doesn't bring us down as much. Resiliency in a material world is say like a tree that can be flexible or a piece of material that can bend. So they kind of go together. Resiliency in ourselves is learning to move like a flexible tree when the wind is blowing. So they definitely go together in the material world and about a person and how we can be resilient, how we can act on our own resilience. So some of us are born with resiliency or have been raised to be resilient, but not everybody. And even if you were not genetically gifted with resiliency or raised in a home that fostered resiliency and taught you resiliency, which most of us weren't, resiliency is a skill and a trait that can be developed and learned. So if you feel like today you're not resilient and you have very strong reactions to things, don't be discouraged. Don't let that prevent you from learning some very important keys to becoming resilient, because we can develop this skill and learn different skills as we go along to become more resilient. So why would somebody want to be resilient? Why would we care about being resilient? And resiliency is a wonderful trait to have and a skill to develop, because it has so many mental, spiritual, and physical and health benefits to us. For one thing, it will keep our level of joy higher. It will make us feel joyous more often when we become resilient. When we become resilient, it also keeps our stress level lower. And as we know, stress all on its own can cause so many problems for ourselves and our health and our mental state of mind. Resiliency also, it has been proven to help people experience longevity, so we can live longer and we can live happier if we have developed resiliency in our lives. So there's a couple of different tools that we can use and practice that can improve on our resiliency. And one of them is mindfulness. And mindfulness is basically like being in the moment. You've probably heard both of those terms, being mindful and being in the moment. And we all might think we're being in the moment because we're here and we might be conversing with somebody. But a lot of times, many of us have other things going on that our mind is thinking about, and we're not actually tuned into what we're doing at that very second 100%. For some of you, and including myself previously, I always had multiple things going on. Like physically, I would be doing some work and thinking about other things. I might be at my job and thinking about my home life, or being at home and thinking about my work. And that's not being in the moment. So being in the moment is wonderful. Not only do we improve our focus on what we're doing and we give our attention to what we need to give our attention to, it's also very good for the actual brain to be where we're at that moment. So one skill to develop that we can use for being in the moment is to imagine that right in front of us we have 3 boxes, and those boxes all have lids on them. And I want you to decorate these boxes the way you want them to be. Some people like them to be shiny and sleek and pretty, and other people, myself included, I picture them as like wooden crates. And I like to picture that there's little locks on each one. So to be in the moment, one of the things we can practice is pretending that one of our crates or boxes is the past. So the one to my left would be my past. The one to my far right would be my future. And the one directly in front of me is what is happening right this second. So right this second, what is in this middle box is me talking to you, and that's it. So I take a moment and I open up all 3 boxes and I take a moment and I think about everything that happened right before this second, all the way back to as long as my memory can take me. And I put everything there. And then I take all my thoughts about what I'm projecting may happen later, like what may happen later today. I have an event to go to tonight. I'm going to take all of those thoughts. I've got a lot of things to do for that event tonight. So I'm going to take all of those thoughts and put them in that box. And I'm going to close those 2 boxes. And that leaves me with what is happening right here with you and I. And that brings me to a place that I can use in so many parts of my life, especially when it comes to working with other people. I find that, like working with my son, when I do this before I'm going to have a conversation with them, because you know kids, they can make our heads spin in 1 second. They can say one thing and we're just like, where did that come from? So when I do my thinking about my past and my future and I put those thoughts away and I sit down with my child, I just have my box about right this minute. I can really focus on what that person needs. So I used my son as an example just because he's such a main part of my life. However, it could be a project that I'm working on. It could be, say, a new dance. You guys know that I teach Zumba. So it could be a choreography that I'm working on. And if I don't do my boxes, I might sit down to do this choreography and my mind could be taken away from a dozen things or more. The cat could be crying, or I forgot to order this, or geez, I forgot to pay that bill, I should do that. And all these things can come in at me. So the boxes really help. So that helps me stay right in the moment, and it improves everything I'm doing right here. Every time, never fail. When I really think about being in the moment with somebody, this technique is very helpful, and it literally improves everything I'm doing. So I'd love you to take that and try that, if you're trying to focus on something, or even if you're not trying to focus on something. Let's say that you don't have a busy day, we can still be mindful. We can become more in the moment by using the boxes. So if we are having a cup of tea and we do our box technique, so we're going to put all of our past here and all of our future there, and we're going to sit down and have a cup of tea. What we could think about is, and tell me the last time that you thought this deeply about what you're doing at that moment. So we're going to have a cup of tea. This is how we would normally do it. We would be drinking our tea and we'd be on our computer and we'd be sipping our tea. And yeah, the tea is good. We know it's good and it's very good for us. But when we put our past and our future away and we're sipping on that tea, we're going to notice about that tea intentionally the smell of it. Or before we make the tea, what about the texture of the tea in the bag? What about smelling the tea bag? And how about also if we put lemon in the tea and then we take a sip of our tea, what does that lemon do to our taste buds? When we drink the tea, how warm is the tea going down, and can you feel it reaching your belly? So it's things like that that bring us in the moment, and it clears out the chatter of life. And getting ourselves in the moment adds to our own resiliency. When we practice this on a daily basis, it improves our resiliency, simply because we can focus on one thing and we can let other things just sit by the wayside for a moment. And when we focus on what we're doing at that minute, it really changes it can change your whole personal makeup over time. It's amazing. So other places that we can use this technique, or really trying to be in the moment, can be things that we do every day, like sipping the tea. Or when you're in the shower. When you're in the shower, when was the last time you thought about the drops of water landing on your skin? We never do that. When we're in the shower, we're like, hurry, 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 because we've got to get to work, we've got to get out of here, we've got to go get all of our stuff done. We never really think about the shower. But try to the next time you're in the shower. Try smelling the soap that you're using. Try feeling the water when it's hitting your hand or your arms. Try looking at some of the drops that are going down your body, and then even until like when you're washing your hair, how does that feel on your scalp? What does that feel? Are you giving yourself a nice scalp massage as you're going? It will improve not only the quality of your shower, but it will also let the future and the past just sit for a moment, so that you can be more in the minute and be more mindful about what we're doing. Being mindful can definitely change our lives totally. Another thing, so that's one thing that we can use, and that's very helpful for improving our own resiliency. Another thing that's great for improving our resiliency is to think about when something bad might happen, maybe not to us, but around us, and we start to process that and we think about it, we start kind of dwelling on it. Something that could be very helpful to us when that happens, like say the news, when we watch the news, and a lot of times the news plays over and over and over all day long. We really want to try to not do that, that they know that that's very not good for us and that it can really add to our daily stress level. So if you're going to watch the news, only watch it once and then really like shut your TV off, because it's very damaging to our psyche. But also when things like that, when we see negative things on the news are happening, or if something bad happens to us, a couple of things that can help would be to almost look at it like it's like you're a spectator in it and it's not really happening to us. If somebody's hurt your feelings, we can learn to become, we've developed defenses or anger, and we really want to try to steer clear of that if we can. And it doesn't mean at all that we ever want anybody to hurt us or to walk on us or to treat us poorly. But what it means is that we want to change the way that we respond to that and sort of recognize that when somebody's doing something that's not nice or appropriate to us, it usually has nothing to do with us. It usually has nothing to do with anything we have said or done. It has more to do with their life experience. So we almost want to remove ourselves from that situation and look at that person doing that like we've got nothing to do with it, like we're just like a spectator to this, because something that other people do to us really is no reflection on ourselves at all. Typically, it's really something that comes from their own life experience, or how they feel about themselves is really quite often what it's about. So we want to try to take things less personally. So a couple of tricks we like to call them minis in the training that I'm in right now. We like to call them minis, and they're little things that we can do during the day that bring us relaxation, that can bring us back into the moment, and they can be very, very helpful. One of the things that I love to do myself is to just take a moment and activate my relaxation response. And our relaxation response is a definite response that our body can have and our brain can have, and it's the opposite of our fight or flight reaction or our stress response to things. So you all have probably experienced when something starts to bother you or you get scared that we tense up. Our neck muscles, our chest muscles, our jaw gets a little bit tighter. Our heart can start to pound. We can close our fists. And as that's happening, sometimes we can even get tunnel vision. And all those things are actually very good things that could save our lives if we're being chased by a tiger. But most of the times when we experience stress today, it's not a tiger. And it could just be, somebody being rude to us at a drive-through to get ourselves a coffee or something. So one thing that can really help when that starts to happen is when that fight or flight reaction starts to happen in our body, and that also has a lot of chemical reactions in the body too, such as the production of cortisol and adrenaline. You can taste it in your mouth sometimes, and it's very unpleasant. So the counteraction to that is the relaxation response, and it's so easy to do this. It's so easy that you might even think it won't work, or that it's so easy you might even think it's too hard. But it's so easy to do this. And there's two rules to this. There's two steps that we have to take to trigger and activate our relaxation response. One of them is to think about one thing, and it's called single pointed focus. It's to think about one thing only. And then the second rule is when you do think about something else, just go back to the one thing you were thinking of. Doesn't that sound so simple? Almost so simple that it wouldn't work. But believe me that it's been scientifically researched and proven by an amazing person started this, Dr. Benson, and he wrote a book on the relaxation response. He also is the founder of the Henry Benson Institute at Mass General Hospital. It is where I'm in training now for my resiliency training, and that is the foundation of his premise and his studies. So when I say to think about one thing, it really should be one thing. And let's say that in your previous meditation or your previous single-pointed focus experience, you were thinking about the beach. And the beach is beautiful, and that can give you a wonderful feeling. But the beach can also have many different things at it. So we've been thinking about the sand and the ocean, and then the sun and the clouds, and maybe people walking by, somebody flying a kite, people in the water. Single-pointed focus, let's really hone that in. And instead of thinking about a general beach or your happy place, which believe me, that's not a bad thing to think about, we're really going to focus in on something on that beach. And if that doesn't work for you, if you're like, well, I don't really have any interest in like a grain of sand, but if that doesn't work for you, you could literally pick up a pen, and instead of looking at the whole pen, look at the tip of the pen and just think about the tip of that pen. So you're going to think about how round it is. Is there a little bit of blue ink on it? Is it a push pen that the tip can come out? And I want you to just think about that very gently. So don't force this upon yourself. Just think about the tip of that pen very gently. And when other thoughts come in, just gently allow them to pass through. Tell them that you'll get there in a second, and go back to the tip of that pen. And if you do this for, say, 2 minutes, a couple of times a day, you're going to find that you relax, B, your brain starts to clear out. You will start to have much clearer thinking, much more focused thoughts, much less chatter and clutter in your brain. So it could help with things like walking into a room and getting there and being like, what am I doing in this room? I mean, how many times a day do we usually do that? So it can also work as a preventative, as well as it can work as something that can reduce stress in a stressful situation. And of course, another thing that we've talked about before that is a wonderful tool for being in the moment, becoming more resilient, and reducing your stress is our breath. Our breath is one of the greatest gifts that we were ever given and that we were ever able to be in control of. We can't control all of our bodily functions. We can't control our heart rate. We can't control the flow of our blood. We can't control our digestion always. But we can always control our breathing if we're awake. So if what we're going to practice right now bothers you in any way, if you feel like you're short of breath or it's bringing you any stress, just go back to regular breathing. But breathing is a wonderful tool that can be used almost everywhere, and it's free. So it's a great tool to use. And I think that if you do this next exercise with me, you will feel relaxed, even if you think you are. I think you'll feel more relaxed. So what we're going to do is just sit very comfortably, making sure that, let's just check in with your jaw. Make sure that your jaw is not clenched. Make sure that your shoulders are relaxed and soft. And we're going to close our eyes to at least half mast so that we don't have lights on us, bothering and making us focus. And also, let's take our hands out to the side and almost to where you can't see them. And your eyes are going to stay forward towards me, but your mind, your thoughts are going to go out to those hands. So you're going to really start using your peripheral vision, and you'll notice that your vision's not as focused anymore, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing. So we're just going to allow our vision to relax, really get your peripheral vision activated by putting the brain to the fingers out here, left and right, and even over your head. So think about that. And we're just starting to go into like a very relaxative state. And we're going to inhale through our nose completely so that we expand our lungs so much that our belly wants to come out. But if you're uncomfortable with that, I understand. Some people don't like that feeling of their belly coming out. So just do what makes you most comfortable is the most important thing. So we're going to make sure that we're relaxed. We're going to inhale through our nose, and if you can allow your belly to come out, that's great. And if you can't, that's okay. But we'll inhale to expand our lungs. And hold that breath for just a moment. And then we're going to exhale very slowly out, pursed lips, like you're blowing out a straw. And let's exhale to the point of almost complete deflation. When you get to the bottom of your exhale, try exhaling a tiny little bit more. Great. And then let's inhale again. Filling your lungs up completely. Holding that for a moment. And then very slowly exhaling out pursed lips. And exhaling completely, almost to deflation. Let's do that again. Inhale up. Filling your lungs up completely. Hold. And this time, as we exhale to deflation, like we're blowing through a straw, we're going to rest our chin on our chest as we exhale. As you're exhaling and allowing your chin to rest on your chest, please let your head be as heavy as you're comfortable with doing so, because the stretching of the neck muscles is very important to the process, and I'll explain to you why when we're done with the exercise. So let your head become heavy and forward, and then we'll inhale again. And hold. And exhale out pursed lips. Letting your head become very heavy again, making sure we're still relaxed in our jaw and in our shoulders. Very good. And now this time, you can just go back to regular breathing and open your eyes just enough to see the floor. And then slowly bring your head up. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes up all the way and start to refocus. Great. So when we rest our head forward and we allow our neck to stretch and relax, and our head becomes heavy and we're resting on our chin on our chest, we're sending our body a message that we are safe at that moment, because that's not a position that we would get into if we were running from the tiger, which of course none of us are ever going to do. But our body and our brain really can't tell the difference between running from a tiger and running around with crazy errands all morning, or even some of the things that are happy stress, such as planning a wedding. You know, our heart's still pounding, we still have stress, and some stress is very good for us, don't get me wrong. We can never live in a world with zero stress. It's how we react to that stress. But this extension, the downward extension of our neck, chin to chest, and closing the eyes definitely tells our system we're safe. We would never close our eyes and put our head down like this if we weren't safe. So when we're doing that in combination with the deep diaphragmatic breathing, we're allowing processes to happen in our body that don't happen when we are on the go, when we are the people on the go all the time. One of those things that can happen is complete digestion, so we can really improve our digestion by taking this time and beaming down allowing the head to be heavy and taking that moment to do some diaphragmatic breathing. Another thing that can really help is the reduction in the process of cortisol and adrenaline, which are probably like the stress hormones. And cortisol, as most of us women know, especially in women, it can really build up and store itself in our lower abdomen. So quite often people will see when they start practicing mindfulness and proper breathing, quite often they will see a reduction in the amount of belly fat that they're holding on to. So that's not going to be the only way, and belly fat can be a whole other talk, but that's a wonderful way to start the process of taking care of ourselves enough and well enough in the right way so that our bodies can metabolize things the way that they were meant to. And one of those ways is through healthy, routine, and intentional relaxation. So I hope today was helpful for you and that you can start adding these little techniques, as simple as they are, into your day so that you can find less stress, a place just for you that you can go to for the minis where you can just step away from stress for a moment and lower your head and breathe, or have a cup of tea and think about really what that tea is. That can really help us reduce our stress. And I will see you all next week. Thank you.